Hey everybody, how you doing? Today's video is brought to you by Gryffindor brand shirts, because R's and A's look exactly the same apparently. Also, today's surprise Funko Pop will be Future Trunks. Say hi, Future Trunks. You're just gonna be here for the video. Okay, so today we're talking about a pirate, pretty famous guy. I think a lot of you have seen him. He's a tall dude, red hair, scar on his face, missing an arm. Yeah, that's him right there. Yeah, okay. No, of course we're not talking about Shanks. Today we're talking about Captain Kidd. Oh, strap in for the Persona references. They're not going away anytime soon. Okay, so Eustace Captain Kidd. You know, he's in Wano right now, and let's talk about what he's going to be maybe doing, because you got to remember, back at Sabaody, when he was first introduced, he was one of the major supernovas that you were really supposed to be paying attention to, like, more so than all the other ones. You know, Hawkins is cool, Drake can turn into a dinosaur, Arouge is like this giant, super bulky, Bricken that can, you know, has some weird devil fruit, like, okay, fine, those are cool characters, but then you get to Kidd, and Oda makes a point to mention, like, Kidd's bounty is even higher than Luffy's, because up till that point, you know, we were focusing on the Straw Hats, right? And, you know, we would run across, you know, villains like Eneru and Crocodile and Rob Lucci and everybody that could give Luffy a run for his money. But for the most part, like, Luffy's bounty was one of the highest we've ever seen. I think up till that point, the only bounties that were higher than Luffy's, like pre-time skip, it was mentioned that, like, Doflamingo's former bounty was higher than Luffy's, but it was frozen. I think there was, I don't know if Ace's bounty was known yet, or if that was dropped later, but Ace's bounty was 550 million. So we knew about a few bounties that were higher than Luffy's, but whenever we did find out a bounty that was higher than him, it was usually somebody part of like a really big crew, like Ace, for instance, or Doflamingo, who's a member of the Warlords. Then we get to Sabaody, then we find out about the supernovas, and, you know, Shocky breaks the news, like, you know, there's a guy on this island right now that has a bounty that's 15 million berries higher than you, and that's Eustace Kidd. And I think that was even like the moment where the chapter ended. Like, that was the chapter climax for that one particular week. Like, oh, we're climaxing big now. Is Luffy gonna fight him? Is Luffy gonna meet him? What kind of ability does he have? Oh my god. And we didn't really get too much focused, you know, purely on Kidd. We did get to see a few moments with him at the auction house and how he kind of like played off of Law, and then Luffy and Kidd and Law all teamed up to take on the Marines that were encamping around the auction house, waiting for Admiral Kizaru to get there. So we got to see his devil fruit, and then later on, him and Law went up against a pacifista, but most of this was off-screen and not Kidd-centric particularly. It was just kind of like, alright, obviously, later on in the story, Kidd is going to be a main character. He's going to be like a big player in, you know, future arcs. So I want to like show everybody what he can do, but not really going to focus too much on him right now. And so after the, you know, during the time skip, we get to see him a few times, like when he was on that island in the New World, and he like wiped out an entire like other pirate crew, and he like strung them up, and he's like laughing maniacally, like, ha 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 ha! The New World is ours for the taking, lads! Let's charge forward! So that's the kind of guy Kidd is. Now, Kidd, he's rather hot-headed. I think we've known a few people like that in our lives. This is Kidd's outlook on the world, on how he's going to become king of the pirates, because he has the same dream as Luffy does. You know, ultimately he needs to prove himself by finding the One Piece and becoming king of the pirates. You know, maybe I should do a video on that, like, what if other pirates won the crown of the Pirate King? You know, how the world would be different if Blackbeard found the One Piece and he became the Pirate King. What if Kidd, or Drake, or Beige, you know, found the One Piece? You know, if Beige found the One Piece, that'd be really cool. If you become the Pirate King and you have any influence on the next generation of pirates, if Beige becomes the Pirate King, the next generation will all be very suave mafiosos, so that would be neat. But maybe I should do that. But yeah, they all have the same basic goal at the end of the day. They want to topple the Yonko that currently exist, find the One Piece, and attain this title of greatness for themselves, right? So that's Kidd's goal as well. Except the way he goes about this is a little bit more direct than Luffy's. So, two differences between Luffy and Kidd. The first one is that Kidd is way more wild and a lot more dangerous when it comes to how he deals with opposition. If anybody were to dare to question his goal or to make fun of of it, God help you if you make fun of it, he'll just annihilate you. Him and his crew will just wipe you out before the sun goes down. You know, he walks into a bar, someone, you know, mocks him, and then he just takes the glass and just shatters it, holds it right up against their neck, like, what'd you say, you bastard? And then that's when Killer breaks out the whirly-durly blade weapons he has on his arms, whatever those things are called, and the whole crew comes out, and then that whole town is burnt to ash by the end of the day. You know, that's the first difference, okay? He's a lot more direct with this, because he has some, I would say, some anger issues a little bit. And the second difference with this, it might not actually be that big of a difference, but you know how Luffy will tend to just jump into scenarios without actually thinking them through first? You know, like, he goes up against, like, the enraged army at you know, in Totland, and it's like, Luffy, there's no way you're gonna beat them. Like, there are so many members of the Charlotte family, and they have devil fruits, and these are not just riffraff, these are seasoned warriors. Like, you know, you were barely able to take out Cracker, and here's, like, you know, dozens, hundreds of fighters. There's no way you can win. You should retreat. That would be the smart thing to do, is to retreat. But Luffy was like, nope, I'm staying right here because of Sanji. And what happens? The enraged army beats the shit out of him, and they carry him off to the prison cell, okay? So, you know, they do have tendencies to just act, you know, without really thinking, or just like, you know, even though this fight can't be won, I'm going to attempt it anyway. And I guess part of that, you could say courage, it's commendable, but in Kid's case, it's even more dangerous than Luffy, because Kid, I think, wants to hurry up and just make a name for himself. He wants to prove to the world who he is, and he sees the big names, and he's like, screw the minor, you know, the minor enemies. We're going after the big fish right away. So, you know, imagine like you're playing an RPG, and it's like, here's the main villain of the game. He's level 100. You're only level 3, so you should probably fight against some other enemy. Like, screw you! I'm not going up against level 3s and 4s. We already know who the big bad is. I'm gonna go after that guy. So, and then you see what happens. You know, you get the crap kicked out of you. So, you get the Captain Kid kicked out of you. Okay, so Kid is like, well, we're in the new world. Who rules the new world? Well, the Yonko. So we got Blackbeard, Big Mom, Shanks, and Kaido. I'm not gonna screw around with these other islands. I'm just gonna go right into their territory. I'm gonna do what I might have to do. I'm gonna take them out and then, you know, call it a day. So Kid is actually faced off against, in only the short time from the time skip, so in the last 2 years alone, Kid has faced off against Big Mom, Shanks, and now currently Kaido in Wano. Once again, you kind of have to commend his courage there. Like, it takes some strong, plentiful iron cojones to go after those guys. Now, to be fair, when it came to Big Mom, he seems to imply he didn't go directly after Big Mom. It wasn't like, I'm gonna go attack Big Mom and wipe her out. Apparently, he was trying to get something from her or get something back from her, and he attacked their ships, and he wiped out a few of them. He did manage to deal some damage to Big Mom's fleets, probably wiped out a few of her tart ships or whatever, and then one of her sweet commanders, we don't know which one, although I like to think it's Smoothie, you know, attacked him, and then he got damaged. No, that's not how he lost his arm. That might have been how he got one of the scars on his face or his chest, but that's not how he lost his arm. How he lost his arm, it was with a run-in with red hair Shanks, and I think this is the instance. I like to think Shanks was the first Yonko he went after. Like, he got into the new world, and maybe he just happened to land on one of Shanks's islands, and he's like, well, we gotta take out the Yonko eventually, don't we? We happen to land on Red Hair Shanks' island, so let's just go with Shanks first. You know, it's just like the luck of the draw. Let's just do Shanks first, right? And then, you know, he wreaked havoc on Shanks' island. Hell, this island right here that we see, where he's wiping out these pirates and stringing them up and everything and nailing them to sticks, you know, this might in fact have been Shanks' island for all we know. And on top of wiping out this pirate crew, he might have also burned some towns to the ground and tortured some citizens, and Shanks got word of this, and the Red Hair Pirates went there, and then I like to think how this went down is you got Shanks, you know, arriving on the Red Force, and all the civilians just scatter, and they're just like, oh crap, we're getting out of here, Shanks senpai, please save us from the evil pirates, you know, and they're running around, and then it's Kid and his crew, the Kid Pirates, they're just the Kid Pirates. You know, you got Killer, who's his first mate, who's a childhood friend, fellow supernova. You also have Heat, who is the dude that's like a mummy, and he can breathe fire. Probably, I would assume not from a devil fruit, because, you know, getting into like Mera Mera no Mi capabilities. Their whole crew aesthetic is like an 80s, like, hard rock punk band kind of thing. You know, you got a lot of like stage effects and everything, so maybe it's some device, or maybe it's a heat dial, who knows, or a flame dial that he has, and he can breathe fire. And then you also have Wire, who's like the satanic cult kind of looking dude. He's got the really like the long cloak, and he's got the pitchfork. You know, I'm imagining Kid is chilling out on the island, like facing the porch, you know, just waiting for Shanks to show up. And, you know, Kid's got a giant glug of booze, and he's just like glug glug glug, and the crew's just hanging out there. And then Shanks arrives, and Shanks just he just like walks off the ship, and he's so freaking chillax. It's like he doesn't even care. Shanks is not like, "You pirate scum will be defeated by me. Today you cross blades with red hair Shanks." Nothing like that. Shanks, I can imagine, just gets off the Red Force, and he just kind of looks around his island, and he's just like, just like kicks a rock, and just like there's ash, and like towns are burnt down and everything, and he's just looking at everything. And then he sees Kid, and Kid is sitting there, and he's like, "Ah, you must be Red Hair Shanks. Well, as you can see, we have certainly made a bit of a declaration here, so here's what's gonna happen. We're gonna fight, we're gonna kick your ass, and we're gonna take your title at being a Yonko, which should be fairly easy, because last time I checked, I have 2 arms, and you only have..." And then that's where he just gets cut off, and then his crew is just like, "Captain, what happened to your arm?" And he's like, "What the hell are you talking about? Why? Oh my god!" Like, okay, it probably wouldn't have happened exactly that way. I don't think Kid would have been quite as boastful there, but I do think it's like a similar interchange where Kid made fun of, or at least referenced, the fact that Shanks is missing an arm, because the fact that he runs into Shanks, and the two look so damn similar, both tall, red hair, scars on their faces, and now Kid is missing an arm, that is way too convenient, okay? You know Kid smack talk Shanks about his arm. He might have just casually brought it up like, "Oh, I don't know if I could be able to, you know, I don't know if you're gonna even be a fair fight for me because you're missing an arm." Or he might have directly referenced it like, "Huh, I bet you're not even worthy of being a Yonko anymore ever since you lost that arm." One of the two, I don't know exactly how it went down, but one of those two happened. And Shanks, man, you know, there's not even a lot of animosity in it. It's not like Shanks, you know, he popped the brain vein and he's like, "How dare you make fun of my arm?" Nothing like that. I think it's just like Shanks's, "Hey man, I'm a Yonko, I'm Red Hair Shanks, I got kind of a status to uphold here, you know, and there's like an unspoken rule when it comes to Shanks. It's like, if you shit talk the arm, you're gonna lose your arm." And that's there, like I said, there's no like malicious intent behind it or anything. It's just like a law of the sea. And so that's probably what happened. Kid shit-talked the arm, he lost his in kind, and then the rest of the Red Hair Pirates came out and beat the crap out of the Kid Pirates, and they were forced to retreat, and that really messed up Kid's, not just his, I mean, it's whatever, it's an arm. Kid was probably way more damaged psychologically than physically in that interchange, you know, he was just like, "Whatever, it's my arm, who cares?" And like, they patched it up, and Kid has the power of some sort of magnetic devil fruit, so he could just make a really bad, I could get a cool robot arm now. That's not the issue here. The issue here is that guy, you know, he made a fool out of me. And so that's why later on we get to see him allying with the Hawkins Pirates and the On-Air Pirates, joining together as an alliance to take on Shanks specifically. That's the reason, you know, because Kid was probably psychologically messed up by this. And, you know, Killer, despite the name, Killer seems to be more of the rational dude on the crew. And so Killer might have actually sat Kid down. You know, they're childhood friends. And he might have been like, "Hey, man, listen. You know, I think it's possible we're going to have to team up with another crew in order to take on Shanks." And Kid would probably be against that at first. He'd be like, "No, we could do it ourselves." Like, "Look, man, come on. dude, he sliced off your arm and you didn't even know it happened. You know, because I like to think that's how it went. I don't like to think there was even a fight. You know, maybe Kid might... You know, if someone asked him about it, maybe Kid would, like, lie about it and said, oh yeah, we got into a fight. But I think it was just like a shing and then done. And so Kid eventually maybe relented to Killer's words of wisdom, and he's like, you know what, okay, fine, whatever. And then they do the alliance thing, and even at the meeting, Kid wasn't very, he was trying to play nice, but you could tell there was some attitude there. And then Kaido crashes down, and Kid doesn't learn his lesson, and is like, okay, there's this giant imposing giant man here. Apu and Hawkins were probably smart and immediately bowed before Kaido, and Kid was like, screw that, I'm not bowing to anyone! Magnetic punch! I like to think there that, like, maybe Kid got, like, one shot out on Kaido, like, kind of the same thing with Luffy, where Luffy just unloaded all of his Gear 4th repertoire into Kaido, just like, you know, Kong Organ! Boom, boom, boom. And then Kaido just takes out the Kanambo and just smacks Luffy upside the head. Probably something similar with Kid and Kaido, like, Kid goes to try to attack him, gets one shot, and doesn't do anything. It might just, like... Ow! Boom! And then Kaido just smacks him and just pile drives him into the ground. So, I like to think that's how that went. Alright, so, currently, though, that brings us up to where we're at right now. Kid is currently in the prison in Wano alongside Luffy. It doesn't seem to be very, however, it doesn't seem to be affecting him all that much because they're just using this moment to have a Rocky training montage, you know, carrying giant boulders and running and just working out like, hearts on fire! And they're just lifting the giant boulders like, it's like strong desire. Got a picture of Kaido. Luffy grabs it, crumples it up like, I'm gonna take you down. You know? So, and by the way, out of this whole exchange here, I think that, Kid in the prison is getting a little bit more of a workout than Luffy, because you figure him and Luffy seem even a lot of times, like they're lifting the same amount of boulders and everything, and they're getting the same amount of dango at the end of the day, like they're even. Gotta keep in mind, though, Kid is doing this with one arm, because Queen, I guess, confiscated his metallic arm, so he doesn't have that anymore, and then Kid is just using one arm to lift all these giant boulders, so, I don't know, I think in this situation, I would give more accolades to Kid rather than Luffy. I mean, Luffy's pretty impressive too, but Luffy still has all of his limbs, right? So you gotta give that to Kid. Like, alright, he's able to keep up with Luffy also with this. Now, Kid's current bounty is kind of lagging behind Luffy's. It was, used to be 315, and then it got increased to 470. So after coming back from the time skip, Luffy was 400 and Kid was 470, so he was still, you know, way higher than Luffy. Then after Dressrosa, we get to 500 for Luffy, and it's like, okay, Luffy 500, Kid 470, that's still about the same. But now Luffy just, whoa, he shot right through the roof, and now he's at, you know, 1.5 billion, and Kid is way back at 470, so I can see Kid starting to lag behind here. I don't know if Kid knows about the bounty change, though, because he's been in the prison for, you know, weeks now. And by the way, the reason why, because, like, well, Kid went up against all these Yonko, why didn't his bounty go up? I think, well, there's a few reasons for this. For one thing, you gotta keep in mind, Morgan's was present during Totland, alright? And Morgan's witnesses everything that's going on with Big Mom and the Sweet Commanders and the crew, and then Luffy and the Straw Hats, and then freaking Beige and his crew. Morgan's was there. And after he gets away, he's like, I gotta sell papers. This is gonna be big news! Big news! This is gonna be like a special evening edition, you know? So then the paper spreads all over the world, and not every single person, but a lot of people consider Luffy a fifth emperor now, and it's just like, Straw Hat Luffy, assassination plot, Big Mom. They're like, alright, we need to, like, get his bounty a little higher up now. The government really didn't have much of a choice in that, considering what Morgan's did. I think if Morgan's was not present, and the whole, you know, the whole ordeal would have been downplayed a little bit more. It wouldn't have been a global spectacle because of Morgan's. His bounty raise probably wouldn't have been quite as substantial. Stussy was still there, so she still would have relayed back to the government that Luffy and Beige were present, but I don't think Luffy's bounty would have raised quite as bit as it was because of Morgan's. Oh, and also you gotta figure, when Luffy went into her territory, he took out 2 of her Sweet Commanders, Cracker and Katakuri, and managed to leave leave pretty much unharmed. When Kid went up against Shanks, he lost an arm. Kid went up against Big Mom. It wasn't like a direct confrontation with Big Mom herself. It was just one of her Sweet Commanders, and Kid didn't manage to defeat the Sweet Commander. It was probably just like, oh, they got some injuries, he got some injuries, and they fled. And then Kaido, we saw how that went. So, you know, that's the main difference there, why Kid's bounty is not quite as high as Luffy, despite the fact that he went up against more Yonko than Luffy did at this point. Right, but I do think that after the events of Wano, which Kid is going to be a big player at, after the events of Wano, and we have the whole thing with the takedown of Kaido, Kid's bounty is probably going to be comparable to Luffy's. You know, we're gonna get something pretty high up there. It's gonna be at least 1 billion. Alright, it's gonna really shoot up there. Along with, I think, a lot of the other supernovas that are present. Because I'm under the impression that at some point, all the supernovas are there, just trying to bide their time, waiting to take down Kaido. Does anyone else have that impression? I don't think any of the supernovas themselves are gonna be, are like, you know, devoutly loyal to Kaido 100%. Hawkins is a really smart dude, so he's gonna play the field, and he's gonna be like, okay, if this is the way it is right now, there's nothing else I can really do here. I'm gonna team up with Kaido, and I'm just gonna be here, part of his crew. I'm gonna be a loyal member. I'm gonna be a loyal headliner. But you know, if the opportunity presents itself, and I think I can win, I'll do it. I think the same thing with Apu, same thing with Drake. Because that would be kind of shitty if we find out, like, oh yeah, these are the supernovas, and some of them just decide to, you know, turn their tails away and just, like, you know, bow to a Yonko and just be subservient and not even bother to go after the One Piece anymore. They're like, oh, I just care about you, Master Kaido. I wouldn't like that coming from any of the supernovas. You know, they should be the other contenders for the crown, if nothing else. You know, so I think they're all biding their time for that. Kid is just a lot more. He won't bow to anyone. That's just Kid's personality. So he's like, you know what? I'm gonna sit here and I'm gonna wait until the time's right. Even I don't care if I'm in a prison. I don't care what I have to do. I'll train up, and then, you know, after we get out of here, I'm gonna go after his head again. Kid is the kind of guy, like, as soon as he gets freed from the prison, he would, like, go directly after Kaido. As soon as getting out of the prison, and they're like, okay, that was whatever, screw you, Straw Hat, I'm going after Kaido, you know? Now, what about Kid's crew? I like to think they are present in Wano right now, Killer and Heat and Wire and everybody, because we didn't see them in the prison, so we can assume that they managed to escape. They didn't get brought in the same as Kid did, because you figure if they were, they would be working in the same prison right now. So they're somewhere in Wano, laying low probably, and like with the dregs of society. Maybe Killer took off his mask, his helmet, because that's kind of a dead giveaway, you know, but maybe he did that thing. Maybe like Killer took off his really futuristic kind of mask, and he just wrapped his face up, you know, with like cloth, or wore one of the basket helmets that Law wore, so we still can't see his face, but it's obviously Killer, right? He'll probably be wearing a kimono that's very similar to his outfit, like he'll have like polka dots over it, because for some reason Killer is just really into polka dots. Hey, whatever, man. I'm not gonna diss the dude that has the giant whirly durly scythe blades, okay? I'm not gonna make fun of that guy. You wear whatever the hell you want, Killer. Alright? But they're hanging out in Wano, and they're probably maybe close to the prison, and they're just waiting for him to break out, or they're gonna try to do something to help him break out. And then they'll join back up with them, and then maybe Killer will kind of like put some common sense in Kid's, you know, mind, like, hey, listen, you saw what happened last time and what happened with Shanks. Don't go after Kaido. This is our chance. This is like the best chance for us to take down Kaido. Like, but think of all the heavy hitters that are on this island right now, like Luffy, you, me, all the other supernovas. If we work together, we can make this work. Maybe Luffy will bring up the whole thing with the Alliance. Maybe that mysterious man who's in the prison right now, that mysterious dude in the cell, he's going to turn out to be maybe part of the Kozuki clan or some other part of the Alliance, and he's like, all right, we got out of the prison. You, Straw Hat, you, Ginger missing an arm, you know, you're coming with me, we're doing this. Right? Something along those lines. And they might not want to go with him, but hey, maybe that mysterious dude in the cell, he might turn out to be really strong. And by the way, I considered the possibility of that mysterious dude in the cell to be Killer himself. That's why we didn't see his face. I don't think it fits. I think Oda might be trying to do something a little bit more important with him. He's going to be important to maybe Wano's culture and history. I don't think it's going to be Killer, but Killer is definitely going to show up at some point in this arc, right? So, now, what would you have Kid do here? Would you have Kid go up against one of the headliners? Possibly. Would you have him go up against Jack, or King, or Queen? I personally would want to see Kid and Luffy team up and fight Kaido. And I've mentioned this before. I want to see all the supernovas do this. I want to see, because even if you don't want to have all of the Straw Hats involved, because you got to figure, like Zoro's going to have to fight off against King at some point, you know, Sanji maybe fights against Queen. You know, so maybe, like, they have their fights with the higher-ups of the Beast Pirates, and then it's kind of like a thing with Oars, where after their respective fights in Thriller Bark, they all fight off against Oars himself and Moria. Might be something like that. But I definitely want to see Law and Kid and Luffy team up again like they did at Sabaody, and they go up against Kaido. Even if that's just, like, the warm-up act. Like, think about it. Like, the battle is underway at Onigashima. It's the Fire Festival. There's battles going on everywhere. Zoro's clashing with King. Sanji's clashing with Queen. Usopp and Chopper and Brook are going up against Jack. I don't know. You got Kinemon and Kanjuro and Raizo doing their samurai and ninja shit respectively. You got all the other members of the rebellion clashing with the headliners. All this crap. And then Kaido's in his throne room in the middle of Onigashima, and he's just chilling out there, drinking some booze. And then Law, Kid, Luffy walk in, and then they're like the warm-up act. Like, they start fighting against Kaido. They've all seen what he's capable of. They all know he's a dragon. By the way, did you know that? Kaido's a dragon. They all fight off against him, and we might have a moment where it's looking like if they all pull their power together at once. You know, they like do some sort of combination attack where Law uses Room and gets them airborne, and then Kid gathers together all this scrap metal and makes a giant, like, spike, and Luffy goes Gear 4th King Kong gun, and Law charges up the spike with, like, radio knife or freaking gamma knife, like he adds some radioactivity to it, and then Luffy just pounds that giant spike, like, right into the center of Kaido, like, boom! And then, like, the chapter ends, and it's like, is this it? And then, in the next chapter, it's revealed that it did a little bit of damage, like a little bit of blood, but then Kaido just freaks out and goes into a dragon mode. And then the fight gets really started, and it's revealed, like, okay, even with these three working together, it's not going to be good enough. And then that's maybe when the other Straw Hats arrive, the other members of the Kozuki clan arrive, the other supernovas arrive, and then the fight gets, you know, it's like the last obstacle, like, we beat everybody else on the island, the only one who remains is Kaido himself. And I can imagine that, man. Like, you have Kaido, like a double page spread, Kaido on one side of the page, and like dozens of the allied forces on the other side of the page. And they're just staring down, chapter ends, One Piece is on break for a month. That's how you do it, Oda. That's how you build hype. You know what? It's like the same shit that happened with the time skip. It's like we have to have like a month worth of hype until we get to it. Do you remember the time skip? Do you remember waiting a month for that? I remember it. I was in high school. I just started my senior year. And let me tell you, man, it's like that meme where you achieve, like, enlightenment, you know, like the brain keeps getting more active with each stage. It's like, you know, waiting 1 week for a One Piece chapter. Ooh, 2 weeks. Ooh, a month, like 1 month time skip. And then it's like, you know, you wait over a month for Kaido versus everybody. It's like you've achieved, like, Nirvana. Okay. But that's the way I would like to see that fight go down, right? I just realized I was gonna make this video more just focused on that last part, but then I ended up talking more about Kid, you know, how he, you know, arrived at the New World and fought against Big Mom and everything. You know, this is a problem with making videos. You make a video on a character, but then you'll always find out more about that character, especially with One Piece, a series that's been running for so long. So, for instance, like, I was looking at my backlog of older videos, and I did my video on Kaido, like, 2 years ago, and it's like we found out so much more about him since then. And so it's like you're never truly done, you know? It's just like I made a video about Kid also about 1.5 years, 2 years ago, but there's stuff we learned since then. So it's like you got to constantly stay updated with this stuff. But I feel like, you know, Kid, if you just look at the series, he doesn't really have a lot of moments where it's just like, okay, we got a Eustace Captain Kid fight one-on-one. It's usually off-screened or it's with other people. And we need to see that. I want to see a Kid fight. So on top of fighting Kaido with Luffy and everybody else, which I think has to happen, I also want to see Kid maybe go up against another one of the supernovas. Like Kid fights against Hawkins or Drake. That would be, oh, Kid and Drake would be metal. Alright, not just metal because Kid can control metal, but also like, you know, freaking giant, like he creates like a Mechasaurus Rex. I don't know, what's the proper term for that? Truckosaurus? I don't know. Like, Kid creates that to go up against, you know, Drake that can turn into a dinosaur. Like, that would be cool, right? So I want to see a straight up one-on-one fight with Kid just to see how he fights and what his devil fruit is called and that kind of brawl before we get to the final battle with Kaido. I would be happy with that if we end out Wano with that, like, layout. Alright, so let me know what you think about Kid and what he's gonna do in Wano, and what do you think about the other supernovas, and what do you think about the whole Shanks debacle? How do you think that interchange went down? You know, do it like a play if you want to, you know, like, this was Shanks's line, this was Kid's line, this was Shanks's line, and then an arm is missing all of a sudden. You know, I wonder what happened with the arm. That's the thing, because you'd figure, you know, this is the One Piece world. If all Shanks did was lop off an arm, I mean, there's probably doctors that can reattach that. There's something you can do with that, right? When Shanks lost an arm, it got eaten, right? So, what happened? Did Shanks lop off the arm and then take it? And then Shanks has, like, he has like, you think Shanks is a pretty chill dude, but he actually has a room filled with nothing but dismembered arms. Kind of like Katarina Devon with the heads of beautiful women. Just like, he has an arm museum. These are the arms of everyone who mocked my arm. Some people have said, like, he took Kid's arm and then attached it to him. So, thanks! I needed an arm! You know, I don't think it's anything like that, but, you know, it's like, yeah, I'll keep this. I'll keep this. Bye! And he waves bye with Kid's own arm, and they just sail away on the Red Force, and Kid is just bleeding out on the... Alright, well, what do you guys think about that? Thanks for watching, everybody. Thanks for joining in on the conversation, Trunks. You really contributed to this great. Alright, have a great one, everybody.